The towel slipped from my hands, but I didn't flinch. Her laugh, a dry, hollow chuckle that bounced off the laundry room tiles, hung in the air like mildew. "You're lucky I even let you touch me." That's what she said, like I was some leper who'd won a raffle. Like decades of providing, fixing, covering her mistakes, and paying off her credit card disasters were just some pathetic tribute she tolerated out of politeness. She turned, humming, tossing her blouse into the dryer like nothing had happened. I just watched her. Not angry, not even sad. Something quieter, sharper. I folded the last t-shirt, that old one from the state fair we went to, before her veneers, before her Pilates instructor with the stupid name, before she stopped asking how my day was. I folded it with more care than I'd handled her in months. Then I placed it neatly on the stack and walked out. In the hallway, I heard her phone buzz. A giggle. Another message. Another little compliment from whoever she thought was her escape hatch. Her voice changed when she texted lately. Eerier, like she was suddenly 20 again. I used to like that sound. Now it just reminded me how good liars always enjoy the setup. I passed the hall mirror and looked at myself. Wrinkled, maybe slower than I was at 40. Sure, but I built machines that could carve titanium to half a human hair's width. I ran a team of 20 men who didn't dare miss a measurement. I wasn't some slob hoping for scraps of affection. But in this house, I was a placeholder. And placeholders don't argue. We execute. I went downstairs into the office. That drawer hadn't been opened in a while. Not since I printed out her client meeting calendar from iCloud and noticed it included one too many Tuesday dinners at the Burstone. Conveniently, never billed to the brokerage account. Inside the drawer was the box. A small, smooth oak box I carved myself after retiring. It was supposed to hold cufflinks. Instead, it held clarity. I opened it. Empty still. Not for long that I flipped open my laptop. No rush, no drama. Just a man doing what he always did, cataloging, protecting, cleaning up someone else's mess. The folder was still there, waiting for the day she smirked one time too many. First up, email printouts. A realtor friend of hers, Celeste, had CC'd her on some messages about fun weekends in Ridge Hill. Except the dates matched exactly with the broker retreats she claimed were for training. One even included a rental car receipt in Vanessa's name, with a second driver added. Not me. Then the texts. I'd synced her phone to the family iPad 6 months ago. She never noticed. Thought it was just for streaming Netflix in the guest room. One thread stuck out. Can't wait to see you outside the sheets for once LOL. He responded with a thumbs up and a picture. Him, shirtless in the mirror of a hotel bathroom. I recognized the wallpaper. The Burstone again. Funny how betrayal has a scent. That place always smelled like lavender and stale desperation. She came down later that night, makeup off, wearing that smug little robe she wore when she wanted to play affectionate wife. You didn't say good night, she said, fake concern painting her tone. I figured you were tired of touching me, I replied. Smiled. She blinked. The moment passed. You're being dramatic, she muttered. I nodded slowly, like a man who didn't mind being underestimated. Because men like me, we don't need second chances. We need evidence. By 11:17 p.m., Vanessa was asleep upstairs, her tablet sliding off her chest, some podcast still whispering about market trends she didn't understand without her assistant explaining them. I stayed in my office. Just me, the oak box, and the quiet hum of the printer spitting out the first pages of her undoing. Chronology matters when you're about to dismantle someone's sense of safety. This wasn't collecting dirt. This was laying the first stones of a road I'd make her walk barefoot. The iPad was still unlocked from earlier. I scrolled further down the thread, thumb steady, breathing slow. Her tone with him was syrupy, sticky sweet in a way she hadn't been with me in years. I needed that last night. Let's do a quick lunch before I head home. Timestamp. 1:42 p.m. That was the same day she told me she was stuck in a board meeting. The he in question? A contractor we'd once hired to fix our deck. I had offered the man a beer while he measured lumber on my porch. He thanked me like a son. And here he was now, warming my wife in hotels with lavender-scented desperation. One message made my grip tighten on the tablet. He's nice but dull. A placeholder. My life started late. Dull. Placeholder. I leaned back in my chair, let that sit for about 3 seconds, then clicked save. Dropped the files into a USB folder labeled June Justice. 3 copies. 1 flash drive in the safe. 1 cloud backup. One sent to my lawyer under the subject line, "Use if she smirks." Vanessa always thought I was slow. She'd joke to friends, "He moves like he's buffering." They'd laugh. I'd smile. Because slowness isn't weakness, it's precision. And precision was exactly what I was building. I shut the iPad, slid it back where she'd left it, and took the first few printouts from the desk. They went into the oak box, edges perfectly aligned. The box wasn't full yet. But neither was I. There's a certain calm that comes over you when the outcome is no longer in question. When the facts are in your hands, and the only thing left is to decide how you'll spend them. That's where I was. Sitting in my office, desk lamp casting a warm cone of light over the oak box, the printouts, and my cooling cup of coffee. Vanessa thought she was running a romance. I was writing a procedural, and every good procedural has a sting operation. The first step? Making her believe the water was still safe. The next morning, I acted normal. Actually, better than normal. I made coffee just how she liked it. Half and half poured first so it swirls, 2 spoonfuls of sugar, little cinnamon sprinkle on top. She blinked at it like it was a foreign object. "What's this?" she asked. "Coffee," I said. "Figured I'd spoil you today." She tilted her head, narrowed her eyes, but smiled. "That's sweet." Sweet wasn't the word. Sweet is when you bring home flowers on a Tuesday. This was something else. This was me brushing dust off the chessboard while she thought we were playing checkers. Vanessa's patterns were predictable once you charted them. Thursdays were late client dinners. Sunday mornings, open houses in neighborhoods she had no listings in. And every third Tuesday, a networking mixer that always happened to be near the Burstone Hotel. I didn't need to follow her. Technology is more loyal than people. 6 months ago, I'd put a location tracker in her Range Rover. Nothing high-tech, just a consumer GPS tucked into the spare tire compartment. Linked it to a clean email account she didn't know existed. It sent me her coordinates every 15 minutes. She hadn't noticed. That Thursday, I watched her little blue dot pull out of the driveway at 6:12 p.m. It paused at the corner, probably checking her lipstick in the mirror, then headed east. By 6:58, she was parked at a restaurant 2 blocks from the hotel. I didn't follow. I didn't need the scene. I needed the receipts. So I called in a favor. I've got a friend, Nate, who does IT for a chain of mid-range hotels. 2 years ago, I bailed him out of a bad audit by catching an accounting error before the IRS did. He still owes me for that. I sent him the name of the hotel. Told him to pull security footage for the night under Lost Personal Item Protocol. By midnight, I had 3 still images of Vanessa walking through the lobby with the contractor, her hand wrapped around his arm like he was some prize she'd won. Her client dinner ended at the bar. The images were time-stamped exactly 28 minutes apart. In the last one, they were stepping into the elevator together. The box on my desk got heavier that night. Friday morning, I slid a manila envelope onto my lawyer's desk. "Start the clock," I told him. He opened it, scanned the contents, then looked up at me with that tight smile lawyers get when they know the game's already over. "You're certain you want to go this route? No negotiation, no settlement." I leaned back in the chair. She's had her fun. I'm having mine. The bait needed to be something she couldn't resist. Something shiny enough to distract her from the hook buried inside it. That Saturday, over breakfast, I mentioned an out-of-town trade show for one of my old clients. "They want me to do a keynote," I said casually, slicing into a stack of pancakes. 2 nights, all expenses paid. Her eyes lit up, not because she cared about my career, but because she heard 2 nights and instantly started rearranging her own calendar. "That's great," she said. "When is it?" "Next weekend." I watched the gears turn in her head. Next weekend was a third Tuesday weekend. Burstone time. She smiled. "You should go. You've been working hard." Translation: perfect. You'll be gone, and I'll be busy. All week, I let her think the plan was set. I even packed a suitcase Friday morning, loaded it into the car, gave her a kiss on the cheek before heading to the airport. Then I drove 2 blocks, parked in an alley behind the old post office, and waited. By 7:05 p.m., her Range Rover was gone. GPS showed her heading straight for the Burstone. Predictable to the minute. I waited an hour, then headed over. Parked in a lot across the street where I could see the lobby. At 8:14, she and the contractor walked in together. She was wearing a dress I'd bought her last Christmas, the one she said was too formal for client dinners. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I walked into the lobby, stayed far enough back to be just another guest, and watched them head to the elevators. The desk clerk barely glanced up. I pulled out my phone, opened the hotel's public Wi-Fi network, and logged in under a spoof name. Nate had taught me how to run a packet sniffer years ago. Old skills die hard. It took less than 10 minutes to grab enough network traffic to show what room she'd checked into, thanks to the hotel's unsecured reservation system. Room 917. I didn't need to knock. I just needed the timestamp. Back home, I printed the GPS logs, the security footage stills, and the packet capture data. Each one went into the oak box, layered like geological strata. Every piece of paper was a fossil of her arrogance. And then, because I wanted her to feel the ground shift under her feet, I left the box exactly where she'd find it. On the desk, unlocked, lid closed but not latched. Vanessa couldn't resist a closed container any more than a raccoon could resist a shiny object. Sunday afternoon, I was in the garage when I heard the faint click of the lid opening upstairs. A pause, then the sound of paper being shuffled. 10 seconds later, what the hell is this? I walked in slowly, wiping my hands on a rag. Evidence, I said. She was holding the GPS log like it was a foreign language. You've been spying on me? No, I said evenly. I've been documenting you. Her face went pale, then red. This is an invasion of privacy. Call it what you want. My lawyer calls it discovery. That's when I saw it. The first crack in her confidence. She wasn't worried about me being hurt. She was worried about me being prepared. And that, I realized, was the moment I'd been waiting for. Because the bait had worked. She'd swallowed it whole. And now, the hook was set. The smart move would have been to keep her guessing. But I wasn't going for smart. I was going for surgical. Vanessa still had the GPS log in her hand, like it might rearrange itself into a better story if she stared long enough. This isn't what it looks like, she finally said, voice thin. It looks like you, I replied, driving to the same hotel every third Tuesday. She dropped the paper on the desk like it burned. You're blowing this out of proportion. I smiled, not the warm kind. Vanessa, I've got a proportion calculator right here in this box. You want me to open it for you? She looked at the oak box as if it were a live grenade. Here's the thing about people like Vanessa. They aren't afraid of guilt, because guilt assumes a moral compass. They're afraid of consequences, because consequences can't be spun with charm or a new outfit. I'd built the box for exactly that reason. Every sheet inside wasn't just proof, it was pressure. You've been compiling this? She asked slowly. For months, I said. I don't like surprises. Her eyes flicked to the box again. What's your plan? Divorce? You think this will get you everything? Not everything, I said. Just everything that matters to you. That landed. I could see her doing the mental math. Her career, her reputation, her curated little image on social media, all built on the idea that she was respectable, desirable, in control. One well-placed leak, and the whole facade would dissolve. I didn't push further. Not yet. I left her in the office with the box and walked out, whistling. By Monday morning, she was back in costume, lip gloss smile, hair blown out, pretending nothing had happened. I played along. We had coffee together, discussed the weather, and she left for meetings. As soon as the Range Rover pulled away, I started my own meeting with Nate, my hotel IT contact, and Carla, my lawyer's favorite private investigator. Carla had that air of someone who had seen every excuse, every tear, every manipulation, and filed them all under irrelevant. I slid the oak box across her desk. Make duplicates, I said. 2 hard copies, 1 secure digital, and 1 flash drive that never leaves your safe. She nodded. You want surveillance too? Not yet, I said. First, I want her to know I can see her without even trying. That was step 1, controlled paranoia. That night, over dinner, I mentioned offhand, hope your meeting went well on Oak Ridge Avenue. She froze mid-bite. How did you? You said it in passing the other day. I lied, taking a sip of water. Guess it stuck. The truth was, the GPS ping had told me exactly where she'd been. Not Oak Ridge Avenue. The Burstone again. But the beauty was in letting her think maybe I'd been close enough to see her. She spent the rest of the meal pushing food around her plate. Step 2 came 2 days later. I dropped a small padded envelope on the kitchen counter before leaving for the office. Inside was a printed photo, one of Nate's lobby stills. No note. No explanation. When I came home that evening, the envelope was gone. She didn't mention it, and I didn't ask. But her hands shook when she poured her wine. By Friday, she was trying to play defense. I got the "we should take a trip" pitch. Somewhere warm. Just us. I smiled. Sounds nice. Maybe in the spring. She laughed too loud. You're impossible sometimes. And that's when I knew the hook was working its way deeper. Because Vanessa never offered vacations unless she wanted to steer the narrative. That weekend, I moved to step 3, exposure without exposure. It started with her best friend, Lila. We'd always gotten along fine, though she was firmly in Vanessa's camp. I sent Lila an email from an anonymous account. If you care about Vanessa, you should tell her to be careful. People are watching. Not everyone wants her to get hurt. No threats. No names. Just enough ambiguity to plant a seed. By Monday, Vanessa was on the phone with Lila in the living room. Her voice pitched low but edged with panic. Here's the real trick to revenge. It isn't about the final blow. It's about the erosion. You make the walls creak long before you hit them with the hammer. So I kept tightening the screws. I had Carla mail a manila envelope to Vanessa's office, marked confidential. Inside was nothing but a blank sheet of paper. She called me from the office that afternoon, voice trembling. Did you send something to me here? I let a beat pass. No. What? Never mind. Click. By now, her predictable Tuesday routine was broken. She skipped the birthstone, stayed home, pretended to be catching up on paperwork in the study. But every time her phone buzzed, she'd flinch. Good. That meant she was thinking about me, even when she was with him. The real fun came when I decided to show her that I wasn't just keeping score, I was playing ahead. One evening, she came into the living room with her tablet. Hey, did you order something from Westview Jewelers? I looked up from my book. No. What? There's a charge here. She trailed off, scrolling. 2,300. I let the pause stretch. Interesting, I said, because that's exactly the same as the bracelet you were looking at online last month. The one you left open on the iPad. Her mouth fell open. You were spying. No, I said, just paying attention. Something you should try sometime. She didn't know that I'd arranged for that charge to appear temporarily on our shared credit card, then vanish 24 hours later. My banker friend owed me a favor. It was never about the money. It was about showing her that even her wants were no longer private. By the end of the week, she was exhausted. I could see it in the way she'd rub her temples, how her laughter with friends sounded rehearsed. That's when I decided it was time to let her have a win. People drop their guard faster when they think they've regained ground. So I told her I was going on another client trip the following weekend. I let her see me book the rental car, pack the bag. Then I actually left town, drove 2 hours to stay with an old friend. I didn't check the GPS once. I didn't need to. Because sometimes, the most unnerving thing you can do to someone paranoid is stop watching. When I came back Sunday night, she was overly cheerful, almost relieved. How was your trip? She asked. Productive, I said. We didn't speak of the oak box, but I noticed it was no longer on my desk. She'd moved it, probably to see if I'd notice. I did. I noticed everything. That's the thing about being one step ahead. It's not about speed. It's about timing. And Vanessa was about to learn that my timing was perfect. Because I wasn't done pulling on the hook. I was about to reel her in. There's a certain moment in a storm when the captain stops fighting the waves and starts using them. That's where I was. Vanessa's paranoia wasn't just alive. It was pacing the deck, scanning the horizon, jumping at shadows. I didn't need to push her anymore. I just had to give her the right wind and let her sail straight into the rocks. It started with a chance invitation. The Chamber of Commerce was hosting a charity gala, black tie, overpriced tickets, the kind of event where everyone pretends to be generous while measuring each other's net worth. I told her I wanted to go. That alone caught her off guard. I usually avoided these things like they were contagious. I thought you hated these events, she said, stirring her coffee. I do, I replied. But I think it's time we were seen together again. That phrasing, seen together, landed exactly how I wanted. She looked up sharply. Vanessa's ego had taken a few hits lately. Skipping the birthstone had kept her out of his arms, but it also meant the affair's adrenaline was drying up. I'd cut her supply without lifting a finger. So when I offered her a stage to shine on, she took it. She spent all week prepping, new dress, hair trial, nails done in a shade she called Power Red. Every bag from every boutique went straight to her closet. She wanted me to notice. I did. What she didn't notice was that every receipt, every timestamp, went straight into the oak box. The night of the gala, we arrived at the hotel ballroom, the other hotel in town. Not the Burstone. This one had a chandelier the size of a small car and a guest list that read like a local power index. We mingled. We smiled. And right around the second glass of champagne, I spotted him. The contractor, wearing a tux that didn't fit quite right, standing near the silent auction table, pretending to care about a framed watercolor of a lighthouse. Alone. Vanessa spotted him too. I saw the flicker, half panic, half longing. I leaned toward her. Small world, huh? She forced a laugh. Oh, I barely know him. Did a job for us ages ago. Sure, I said, swirling my drink. Still, you should go say hello. It's polite. She didn't. Not right away. She circled the room, talking to donors and realtors, but her eyes kept drifting back to him. I made sure we ended up near the auction table again. And when I excused myself to check on the valet, I left her right there, 5 feet from him. From the lobby balcony above, I watched them. First the casual glance, then the smile, then the lean in. 15 seconds later, they were tucked into a corner behind a palm plant, heads too close for any conversation that needed a black tie backdrop. Perfect. I didn't storm down there. I didn't make a scene. I just waited until she rejoined me at our table, cheeks flushed. Everything okay? I asked. Of course, she said too quickly. Why wouldn't it be? I shrugged, spearing a piece of salmon. No reason. Just thought you'd enjoy catching up. The thing about bait is that once they bite, they expect to be reeled in. But I let the line run. For the next week, I was the picture of normalcy. Coffee in the morning, quiet dinners, no questions asked. She was jumpier than ever. Every time her phone buzzed, she'd glance at me before answering. She was waiting for the hammer. I didn't lift it. Instead, I planned the next turn of the wheel. A week later, I told her my old friend Peter from Chicago was in town and wanted to meet us for dinner. You remember Peter? I said. Big into real estate. She hesitated. Do I know him? You met once, I lied. It'll come back to you. Peter didn't exist. But the restaurant did, a small, upscale place with open seating. I made a reservation for 3, then arrived early to find our table. When Vanessa walked in, dressed for a casual evening, she froze. There was no Peter, just me. And at the table directly across from ours, the contractor and a woman I didn't recognize. She masked it quickly, but her eyes betrayed her. She knew this wasn't coincidence. Where's Peter? She asked as she sat. Running late, I said. Let's order without him. We made it through the first course before the contractor's companion excused herself to take a call. Vanessa couldn't help it. She glanced at him. He glanced back. It was like watching 2 actors forget their lines mid-scene. I let the silence stretch, then said softly, You've got something on your conscience, Vanessa. Might want to wipe it off before dessert. She left the table before dessert. Never came back. I paid the bill, walked out, and found her in the parking lot, pacing beside her car. You're trying to humiliate me, she said. No. I replied, unlocking my own car. I'm trying to remind you that I see you. Always have. Always will. That was the last time I saw the contractor. Not because she stopped seeing him, because I made it impossible for him to stay. Step 1 was a quiet conversation with the licensing board about irregularities in his last few projects. Step 2 was an anonymous email to his current clients with copies of hotel receipts. Vanessa's name right there on the printouts. By the end of the month, his work had dried up. And people like him don't stick around when the perks run out. Vanessa didn't know I'd pulled the strings. She just knew he stopped returning her messages. She got quieter after that. More careful. That's when I knew it was time to set the final destination. I told her we should host a dinner party. Just a few close friends. She agreed, probably thinking it was a sign I was letting things go. We set the date. I sent the invites. And then, without telling her, I added 3 extra names to the guest list. Lila, her best friend. Celeste, the realtor. And my lawyer. On the night of the party, I kept things light. Drinks, appetizers, small talk. Vanessa was in her element, laughing just a little too loud, telling stories with her hands. Then, right as the main course hit the table, I stood. Before we eat, I said, I just want to share something. I walked to my office, brought back the oak box, and set it in the middle of the table. This, I said, is what my wife's been working on in her free time. Every I turned to Vanessa. Her smile cracked. I opened the box. One by one, I laid out the photos, the logs, the receipts. The table went silent. Lila's hand flew to her mouth. Celeste shifted uncomfortably. My lawyer just watched, taking mental notes. Vanessa's voice finally broke the quiet. You planned this. From the moment you laughed in the laundry room, I said. The party didn't last much longer. But the story of that dinner? That spread faster than anything I could have posted online. By the end of the week, her close friends weren't returning calls. Her professional network was ice. And Vanessa? She was suddenly very interested in talking settlement. That's the thing about steering the ship. You don't have to sink it. You just make sure the captain's the first one in the water. And I wasn't done watching her tread. After the dinner, the damage was done publicly. But public shame only bruises the ego. I wanted her to feel the absence. The first step was financial amputation. Over the next 2 weeks, I called in every quiet arrangement I'd been building for months, moved investment accounts to my name alone, liquidated a piece of commercial property she didn't even know we owned, froze the joint credit cards due to suspicious activity. Vanessa still had a roof, still had her car, but the world she liked to flash, the spa visits, the business lunches that were just martinis at 2 p.m., went dry overnight. She confronted me in the kitchen one morning, waving her phone. My card was declined at lunch. I stirred my coffee. Must be fraud protection. You've had a lot of suspicious charges lately. That week, I also started returning her gifts from our marriage. Things she'd bragged about on Instagram. Designer bags, jewelry, a custom watch, all quietly sold to a dealer friend of mine. Not for the money, for the space it left behind in her closet. Because you can live without luxury, but you can't ignore the holes it leaves staring at you. Her one refuge was the Range Rover. It was her status symbol, her command seat, the leather-scented stage for her curated life. I waited until a rainy Tuesday morning. While she was upstairs getting ready, I swapped the Rover for an old loaner truck a buddy in construction had sitting in his yard, dented, paint faded, smelled like drywall dust. Left the keys on the counter with a note. Yours until the settlement clears. She came downstairs, saw the note, and I swear, for the first time, her voice cracked. You can't be serious. Completely, I said. Consider it a lifestyle adjustment. By now, she was calling her lawyer daily. I knew, because her lawyer was also my lawyer. She didn't know he'd been mine first, or that his loyalty was firmly with the man who brought him the oak box months ago. Every call she made was just her digging deeper into a maze I'd already mapped. When she thought she'd bottomed out, I sent her an invitation, handwritten, formal, like it was for a wedding. It read, Vanessa, join me at the Burstone Hotel, room 917, Saturday at 8 p.m. Come alone. She showed. Of course she did. Curiosity was always her weak spot. When she opened the door, expecting what? A reconciliation? A confrontation? She found the room empty except for the oak box on the bed. Inside, a single USB drive labeled Final Cut. I'd edited everything, photos, receipts, GPS maps, into a neat video set to one of her favorite songs. A highlight reel of her own undoing. At the end, a simple line. By the time you finish watching this, the divorce will be filed. I wasn't in the building. I was across town, having a steak point 2 weeks later. The divorce papers were public record. I'd kept the house, most of the assets, and, thanks to a clause my lawyer slipped in, exclusive rights to a small real estate LLC we'd formed together years back. She didn't realize until months later that the LLC owned her precious client list, her branding materials, and the rights to the name she'd built her career on. The day she tried to close a deal under Vanessa Reed Realty and was told she no longer had legal rights to use it, that was the day she called me. You've ruined me, she said, voice hoarse. No, I said calmly. I just collected what was mine. You ruined you. The ending she didn't see coming? I didn't remarry. I didn't even date. I kept the oak box on my desk, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. You don't win by shouting. You win by smiling while the other person doesn't realize the floor is gone beneath them. And Vanessa? Last I heard, she's driving that same dented loaner truck. Some storms you don't sail out of.